Hare Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudiriye
Tato Jayamudiriye
Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu
Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki
Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki.
Recite the invocation. Om Jnana-Timirandasya Jnanantana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Shri Chaitanya Guru Vishtam Sahagam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Ramayam Tvarami Swaparantikam Avandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yutam Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Saradutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakambikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tata Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarupasya Kripa Sindhu Varevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You all are comfortable over there? Okay. Maybe we can scoot over a little bit.
Yes. Voice can come. Yes.
From this side.
It's white.
So, you can come. Some space. Yeah. So this Srimad Bhagavatam installation is very, very auspicious. So I'd like to thank Ishwar Prabhu and Sharmila Mataji for inviting us into their home and celebrating this very wonderful accomplishment to bring Srimad Bhagavatam into our home. It is no ordinary accomplishment. It is actually a lifelong accomplishment. We can say it's a lifetimes, many lifetimes of Shukati is needed in order to have the fortune of bringing Srimad Bhagavatam into our home. It is non-different than the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. How many of us have been able to welcome, some extraordinary person? We think, wow, I'm very lucky. But to bring the Supreme Lord into our home, that takes really, really special mercy. So both Prabhuji and Mataji must be very blessed and sincere in serving the Supreme Lord, serving Sri Sri Radha Kunjari and Srila Prabhupada to have this fortune. And you are extra merciful upon all of us to allow us to participate in it. So we are also the great beneficiaries. And I think many of you have had the opportunity to welcome Srimad Bhagavatam into your home. Some of you will be doing it shortly. And others who have not, pray today, dream today that it happens. And it will happen. Because Srimad Bhagavatam, I think that we've mentioned in most of the discussions, you cannot adequately glorify Srimad Bhagavatam in its value, its potency, but we can try to get some comparative understanding through some imperfect material means. And one means is if you took everything that is valuable, all the diamonds and jewels and wealth and everything that was valuable in the material world, and you put it on one scale, and then you took these 12 cantos, 18 volumes, and put on the other side, the scale would break. And it would go, this is more valuable than anything else in the whole universe. And we should cherish it as such, understanding why. Because this Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva, when he was compiling all the Vedic knowledge, until he came to Srimad Bhagavatam, he was left feeling unsatiated, unsatisfied, actually unhappy. Now, accomplishing such extraordinary works was compiling the Vedas, the Upanishads, all the Puranas, so much knowledge he had put to paper. But his spiritual master Narada Muni explained that until you come to the topic of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, directly, you'll not find complete happiness. So we are the beneficiary because we know if the author himself could not find complete satisfaction, and he only found it from reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we can go straight to Srimad Bhagavatam. We can shortcut the process. We think, is this 18 volumes, 18,000 verses, how I'll ever digest it all? Just start. Reading 1 or 2 verses a day, you can finish in relatively short order. It's like climbing a giant mountain. You're not going to climb it in 3 steps. We are not like Vamandev. So, but we can know step by step by step. People can climb even Mount Everest. What is climbing Mount Everest compared to reading Srimad Bhagavatam? I know the morning reading group has already completed first canto, and they are now in second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. They've already finished Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna book. It's like amazing. It's just every day, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And you can read. And you'll find the sweetness that Srila Vyasadeva finally achieved in talking directly about the Supreme Lord. And so this is the glorious position of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it contains so many wonderful pastimes and instructions for all of us. And instructions on how to find perfection of life. How many of us want perfection of life? Now let me ask you, how many of us have a clear definition of what is perfection of life? How many of us had a definition of perfection of life 20 years ago that was the same as it is today? How about 10 years ago? Our definition of perfection changes. For a child, definition of perfect is getting lots of candy tomorrow on Halloween. That is like perfection of life, right? Well, we think that's comical and we laugh. But actually, as we grow into adults, without a spiritually centered life, our definitions of life, perfection, are no better, no more intelligent than a child thinking perfection of candy tomorrow. We dream of maybe a little bit more sophisticated candy, but it is no different. Until one comes to the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, then we can understand what it is to pray for. And what we find in Srimad Bhagavatam is great, great personalities. And they offer so many prayers. This is a book of prayers. And we actually can understand what it is to pray for. If we're going to go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we should go with some good intention of what we can obtain. We don't want to go to a rich person and ask for a few grains of broken rice. But asking for material wealth, fame, beauty, strength, all these things, it's nothing in comparison to what? Love of Krishna can reach. Going back home, back to God. And this is what our great examples are shown in Srimad Bhagavatam. So by studying them, we learn to follow in their footsteps. And by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he has presented this Srimad Bhagavatam in a very digestible way. He has presented immaculate purports that bring out the essence of each and every verse and does so succinctly so that we can digest in short order the real understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is Srila Prabhupada, one of his amazing gifts to all of us. And you can imagine, we struggle to think how to read. Imagine how much effort went into writing all of these purports. And Srila Prabhupada did, starting at a very advanced age. And he sacrificed so much, we say blood, sweat, and tears. So we just have to give back a fraction of that. And Srila Prabhupada will bestow his mercy upon us. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, like I said, its glories cannot be exhausted or adequately described. But our acharyas give us great guidance. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself showed us the importance of reading and studying Srimad Bhagavatam, by himself studying it every day. And he gave many, many other powerful instructions we are discussing this morning, that one of the most potent processes of our devotional service. There are many, many different angas, or different ways in which we can practice bhakti. But 5 of them in particular are most potent. And we're going to do all 5 of them today. But these are most potent. And one of them is reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And particularly reading from 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which speaks about Krishna's pastimes, and particularly his pastimes in Vrindavan. This can bring about a dramatic change in our consciousness. And so we'll read today from this 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And pray that we can also have the same results that so many before us have had in studying Srimad Bhagavatam. So for whoever does not have Srimad Bhagavatam, pray today, and we can bring and install into your home, and you can just receive this unlimited blessings and blessing. So once again, Prabhuji and Mataji, congratulations on this life accomplishment, and thank you for inviting us into your home in this most auspicious time of Kartik, where we know everything we do in devotional service is multiplied many, many thousands of times. The return on investment is exponentially increased. So whatever we do, rounds we chant, prasadam we honor, everybody honor extra prasadam, extra blessings. No need to limit, unless you've taken a vow of some sort. But everything we do in devotional life during the month of Kartik is especially glorious. So this Friday, what is the wonderful day of this coming Friday, November 5th? Govardhan Puja. And Govardhan Puja marks many, many important things. It is the spiritual New Year for all of us. So we know we make New Year's resolutions, right? So this is time to make spiritual resolutions, particularly during this month of Kartik. So shall we discuss Govardhan Lila today? Okay.
Yes.
So this Govardhan Lila is very, very sweet and very detailed. It also has many facets to it. It is covered in 4 chapters of the 10th canto. So we know that Shukadeva Goswami only had 7 days to speak. Right? So whatever he spends more time on, we know has some heightened importance. Right? This Govardhan Puja is spent 4 chapters on. Lord Nrsimhadeva's appearance, virtually the whole 7th canto is dedicated to. So the Prithu Maharaj's pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj. Some of these pastimes are very, very elaborately described. And so they give us some indication of its relative importance. Everything is on the absolute level, of course, but it gives us some understanding. So there's kind of 4 parts to this pastime. There's Krishna, disrupting the Indra Puja that the cowherd men were planning to do, and instigating the Govardhan Puja. Then we have Lord Indra's reaction to those activities. Not so pretty. We'll discuss those. Then we'll see Krishna's response in the 3rd part, which is Girivardhani, lifting up Giriraj in his hand. And then we have Lord Indra's prayers. Lord Indra's response to Krishna holding. So 4 parts to this pastime. So in the past, I think we've spent a lot of time in certainly the 1st and 2nd and even 3rd part. So we'll spend a little bit more time this time in the 4th part of this pastime. And we'll also discuss something that happens between part 3 and part 4, which is very sweet. It's a chapter called Wonderful Krishna. Its title alone is very captivating. What is that?
Krishna is he himself wonderful.
Yes, he is very wonderful. So we'll discuss a little bit about that. It's a very sweet exchange that happens between the elderly cowherd men and Nanda Maharaj after Krishna had lifted Govardhan Hill. Okay, so that will start. So we'll read from 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 27, text number 2, and the title of the chapter is Indra and Surabhi offer prayers. Vivitva upasangamya vriditta krita helana parasparsha parayorenam girit anarka varchasa. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Indra was very ashamed for having offended the Lord. Approaching him in a solitary place, Indra fell down and laid his helmet, whose effulgence was as bright as the sun, upon the Lord's lotus feet. Purport. The specific solitary place where Indra approached Sri Krishna is mentioned by the sage in the Hari Vamsa, Vishnu Parva 19.3. He saw him, Krishna, sitting at the base of Govardhan Hill. From the commentaries of the Acharyas, we understand that Lord Krishna wanted to provide a solitary meeting for Indra so that he would not be further humiliated. Indra came to surrender and beg forgiveness, and the Lord allowed him to do so privately. So now we're at the very end of the pastime, so now we have to rewind the clock and go all the way back to the beginning. So as there are kind of 4 parts to this pastime, there are 4 main morals or principles of this pastime as well in each section. So the first part, where Krishna is disrupting the Indra Puja, it speaks about pride. Right? So we have a general idea. Is pride good for us?
No.
Why not?
Ego.
At least ego, okay. What's the result of ego, pride?
We fall down immediately.
We'll fall down immediately. Does that mean we'll trip and fall? And we say pride comes before the fall. So what happens when we have pride, whether spiritual or materially? What happens? What happens if I'm going into an exam full of pride?
Ignorance will come.
Ignorance will come. What happens?
Door of the hell will open.
Huh?
Hell door open.
Hell door opens.
Wrong decisions.
We take the wrong decisions, right?
You feel like I'm the controller.
We think I'm the controller.
Do more offenses.
We do more offenses.
Feel ourselves as a supreme.
We feel ourselves as the supreme.
More and more away from Krishna.
More and more away from Krishna.
And you are going to lose everything.
Lose everything. Yeah, just ask Robin. Right? So we know that pride, when we have pride, we let our guard down, right? If I am so proud of my great driving skill, and decide, you know what, I don't need a seatbelt, forget it, I'm so good at driving. Is that a good idea?
Overconfidence.
If I think I'm so good at math, I don't need to study for this test. Is that a good idea? So pride in the material sense also is very dangerous, right? Because it leads to failure. It leads to our fall down. Fall down means success. So what is pride then? That we should define. What is pride?
Illusion. Illusion.
Illusion. Illusion of?
You have the
Reality.
controller. Being the supreme controller.
It's illusion of what I really have. Pride isn't necessarily just a feeling of greatness. A devotee feels great being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord as his humble servant. So one can be proud of one's position as the part and parcel and servant of the Supreme Lord. So pride, very importantly, is a misconception of the reality of our position. That is pride. A misconception of the reality of our position. And so anytime we have any misconception of reality, we know things go awry. Right? Things break down. So, not having pride isn't about low self-esteem or any other kind of... No, it is about having a proper conception of our greatness. There is greatness because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Great. So there is greatness to every one of the living entities. But we must have a proper understanding. So, Krishna, when he really, really loves us, what does he do to our pride? He smashes it. He smashes it. When he loves us. But when our pride is smashed, it's not so pleasurable. But the end result is success. Success. Right? We've all had this experience. Sometimes we have to take a bitter pill to get our health back. But we take the bitter pill, knowing our health will return. So like this, the pill of having our pride smashed. When Krishna says, Paritranaya sadhunam, protecting the sadhus. One of the ways in which he protects the devotees, sometimes, is by smashing the pride. He says in a later verse in this chapter, very sweet verse. Let's hear this very sweet verse. A man blinded by intoxication with his power and opulence cannot see me nearby with the rod of punishment in my hand. If I desire his real welfare, I drag him down from his materially fortunate position. This is Krishna speaking. Saying that if I really desire his welfare, what do? Bring him down. Down from the inflated material conception. And what he's carrying? The rod of punishment. So we should pray. How many of us have gone to Radha Kundra and said, my dear Radha Kundra, give me the rod of punishment to drag me down? We should all pray like that. Because it is, when he really loves us, then he brings it. But his rod isn't like the mother's rod. It is very sweet. So what happened? So, the elderly cowherd men, they were preparing for the Indra Puja. So this takes place immediately after Krishna had blessed the wives of the Brahmanas. And he and the cowherd boys were hanging out in that area. and there they overheard Nanda Maharaj and the elderly men doing some activities. So naturally, whenever some actions are going on, young boys, they come and what do they want to know? What's going on? So Krishna comes, the all-knowing, omniscient Supreme Lord. He says, Father, what are you doing? And Father says, whatever. He just doesn't answer, thinking maybe he'll get distracted and go away somewhere else. But Krishna was relentless. He kept asking, what is going on? And then finally, Nanda Maharaj is not answering. Krishna says, it's not good to hold secrets among family. So Krishna starts using some good logic. He said, don't hold secrets. So Nanda Maharaj finally relents, thinking, okay, this boy will not go. So then what does father try to do? Answer the question, and then hopefully they'll go away and start playing again something else so they can get back to their work. So Nanda Maharaj explains that we are cowherd men. We are dependent on our livelihood for agriculture and cows. And from that, we are dependent on rains to water the fields so that we can produce some grains. Our wealth is thus dependent on this. And so we are doing some yajna to please Lord Indra. So Krishna now decides that, they should not worship Lord Indra. Now why he wanted to stop the worship of Lord Indra? So Prabhupada comments, because Lord Indra had become proud of his position as the jurisdictor, the minister of rains. And so we know now, when Krishna desires our welfare, what does he do? He helps us break our pride. And we're going to see how cleverly Krishna breaks the pride of Lord Indra. How cleverly he does. Okay? So, Krishna says, you should not worship Lord Indra for this. He starts actually propagating this karma mamamsa philosophy, which basically extols that, we just do our good duty and things have to happen by nature. If I do good, results have to come. And that is actually, we know to be fully incorrect. We're always dependent on the mercy of the Lord. But in order to, break this idea, Krishna begins to speak this way. And Lord Nanda Maharaj says, then, what should we do? And he says, Krishna then says, well, if we see there's no need to please Lord Indra. He's putting rain in the oceans, he's putting rain on the rocks, he's putting rain on the fertile grounds. Obviously, they're not doing any yajna. What's the point? He has to give the rains. Just no need to worship the Lord Indra. Who we should really worship is Govardhan. Giriraj. Giriraj is the maintainer of our whole community. Our cows are going there to graze and getting fine grasses. The waters flowing from Giriraj are full of minerals and nutrients that are then fertilizing the fields. The elderly ladies are acquiring great flowers and are offering in worship. So actually our whole sustenance has nothing to do with the rain, it has to do with Giriraj. So we should do this Govardhan Puja. So now we have to take a step back and think, what is this Govardhan? Why Krishna picked Govardhan? So Govardhan is one of the very illustrious features in the spiritual world. Actually, Srimati Radharani said, I'll not come to the material world, when Krishna said, hey, we're going for a field trip. And she said, good luck, go. But I'm not going wherever there is no Yamunaji, and wherever there is no Vrindavan or Giriraj. So Krishna said, no problem. So then he sent all of these features of the spiritual world down here. So actually, Govardhan resides eternally in the spiritual world. It came to Vrindavan through some pastimes of Pulastya Muni, bringing from the mountain regions. We won't go into that today. But it reached Vrindavan. And there's a very auspicious place. In Nectar of Instruction, Srila Rupa Goswami gives the importance of different places to practice bhakti. And he says, even more powerful than Vaikuntha. Now, what could be more powerful than Vaikuntha? Rupa Goswami says, more powerful than Vaikuntha is the Mathura district here on the earthly planet. Now we think, going back home to God. This, and Rupa Goswami explains why. Because Krishna personally performed his pastimes in Mathura. Krishna himself doesn't enter Vaikuntha, he enters through his Narayan forms. But personally he has come here. And within the district of Mathura, the most potent place is Vrindavan. And the most powerful place within Vrindavan is Govardhan. And the most powerful place within Govardhan is the eye of Govardhan. So he gives this very high. So Govardhan is a very powerful place for devotional service. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to wear one Govardhan Shila around his neck, and every day was worshipping Govardhan. Every day. Sanatana Goswami would do parikrama around Govardhan every day. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself did parikrama. But who did the first parikrama of Govardhan? Krishna. So Govardhan Puja that Krishna instructed to Nanda Maharaj, this is one of the very few pujas that Krishna himself inaugurated, that he himself authored and started. So we can have some sense of its importance in celebrating, in observing this Govardhan Puja. So Krishna instructed Nanda Maharaj. Finally, after some long discussion, Nanda Maharaj finally relented. He tried to say, okay, we'll do your Govardhan Puja tomorrow. Let us finish our Indra Puja. And Krishna said, no, do it now. Take all these bhoga, all the materials that you have received, accumulated, and we make an offering to Govardhan. So Krishna then very detailed explained what to do. So he assembled all the residents of Vrindavan at the base of Govardhan. And there, all the residents had made wonderful, wonderful foodstuffs. And they had emptied out their storerooms and had cooked mountains and mountains of rice and sabjis. They made a lake full of dal and sweet rice. They made gulab jamuns as really big, really big. And pakoras and puris and sandeshes and Srila Prabhupada gives all that. Now we're not getting hungry. But one huge amounts of offerings were made. And Krishna instructed that you offer everything to Gira. Now you can imagine, what would be the mood of Lord Indra? He was due to receive all these things. And now Krishna has diverted it and they're going to offer to a bunch of stones, a hill, some dirt, versus me? You can imagine how upset he was becoming. So, Krishna continued. And he gave some very wonderful instructions. He told Nanda Maharaj, you invite all the brahmanas, they'll recite prayers, and then we'll give them charity. You decorate the cows very, very nicely and opulently. We know Krishna's Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. He is the protector of the cows and the brahmanas. And so he then asked them to feed all the brahmanas very sumptuously. But Krishna is not only the protector of the cows and brahmanas. He is the protector of everyone. But if we protect cows and we protect brahmanas, then all society flourishes. Actually, this is the measure of progress. It is not GDP. It is not any other measure. If you look in the history of time where cows and brahmanas are protected, you see flourishing society. It is a very simple formula. But it does not mean the cows and brahmanas were nicely cared for and everybody else loved. Krishna said, no, after they have been fed, everyone should be fed. Even the dogs and the dog eaters all people, everybody should be sumptuously fed. And so Nanda Maharaj, the elders followed in the instructions, gave wonderful prasadam to everybody, charity. And then Krishna said, okay, now everybody put on their finest clothes. We're going for a walk. And they began parikrama. And Krishna himself inaugurated the first parikrama of Govardhan. Since then, millions and millions of people have performed parikrama. But Krishna was the first to inaugurate this process. He had all the brahmanas and cows leading the procession. The elderly ladies were, sitting atop bullock carts. The men, many of the men were walking. And this way, a big procession. Now, this time Govardhan was gigantic. How big? It was 64 miles long. It was 40 miles wide. And 16 miles high. Huge. Huge Giraj. And so, but they were a big, big festival. Just in bliss, enjoying. Today, if you do Govardhan Parikrama, the whole circumference is 22 kilometers. In Kali Yuga, it's shrinking. Some way say, it makes it easier. With a little less austerity. But Krishna then brought everybody back to the same spot. And here, he manifests a very sweet pastime. Because still there will be some doubts, right, in the minds of the residents, like, was this all worth it? We offered all this food to the mountain. What is this? So then Krishna assumes a very gigantic form of Giriraj and begins to eat all of the offerings that the residents had made with so much love. You can imagine how nice it will be. Someday we'll cook for Krishna and we'll actually also see him eating the offerings. Actually, it will happen. Once the devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, do you see the deities eating? He said, yes, I do see. But you cannot yet due to the contaminations. But as you purify, you also will see. So Krishna, assuming the form of Giriraj, began to eat all the offerings. And then Krishna does something very interesting. He offers obeisances. In essence, he's offering obeisances to himself. But why he's offering obeisances? To show us the importance. All the residents of Vrindavan offer their Dandavat pranams to Giriraj, recognizing that yes, this is none different than the Supreme Lord. So actually, still today, as I mentioned, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was worshipping Giriraj in many of the temples where we have a Govardhan Shila, where it is worshipped. It is non-different than the Supreme Lord himself. That is why when we do parikrama, we don't step on Govardhan. Sometimes some tour guides will say, I'll take you to the top of Govardhan. We should not step foot on Govardhan, because it is non-different than Krishna himself, as he showed by honoring and eating all of the offerings. And many other sweet exchanges take place. So after this Govardhan Puja was inaugurated and completed, Krishna sent all the residents home. So everybody went home. And now we can imagine what Lord Indra is thinking. I missed all the rasgullas and cakes and puris and pakoras and sabjis. And so he, in a fit of anger, tries to exact revenge. Now we said, what happens when we have pride? We lose our intelligence. So Lord Indra calls for the Samvartaka clouds. These are the clouds that pour torrential rains during the time of devastation. And so even the Samvartaka clouds were feeling uncomfortable. But Lord Indra insisted and said, I'm coming with you, and pushed, and Samvartaka clouds came. And his goal in coming was quite, you can see the extreme nature of pride and what it leads to do. So, this is Lord Indra speaking. Indra said, "Just see how these coward men living in the forest have become so greatly intoxicated by their prosperity. They have surrendered to an ordinary human being, Krishna. Thus they have offended the gods. They are taking shelter of Krishna's just like the foolish attempt of men who abandon transcendental knowledge of the self and instead try to cross over the great ocean of material existence in false boats of fruitive ritual sacrifices." Now this is where Lord Indra takes us to a whole new level. He says, "These coward men have acted inimitably towards me by taking shelter of this ordinary human being, Krishna, who thinks himself very wise, but who is simply a foolish, arrogant, over-talkative child." So now we can see how dangerous pride is. Who is Krishna to Lord Indra?
Normal human being.
But who is he actually?
Indra.
If you went to your boss on Monday and said, "Dear boss, you are simply a foolish, arrogant, over-talkative adult," what would happen? Hi. Right? This is his boss. But this is what pride does. Pride blocks our intelligence. And so what he wanted to do, he wanted to decimate the coward village of Nanda Maharaj. And Lord Indra said, all of Vrindavan, they are surviving on cows. Their wealth is cows. So what he wanted to do, he wanted to flood the grounds to kill all the cows. So this is the depth of what happens from pride. And this is not a pastime to talk about Lord Indra's position. This is a pastime to talk about the danger of our own pride and how destructive it is for our consciousness and the decisions and the things that we think are reality are completely false. And this is how bad and dangerous pride is. It should serve as a startle awakening to us. But this pride is very dangerous because the great, very mighty and powerful Lord Indra, who was a wonderful, pious servant of the Supreme Lord, by pride can come to this conclusion. What to speak of us? What to speak of us? This is why we must very carefully guard against pride. So Lord Indra begins to enact a reign of terror in Vrindavan, unlike anything that's ever been seen before. And huge, heavy rainstorms are coming. They're saying it's like, raining columns. You can imagine columns are falling from the sky. How fearful. And the cows and animals became so scared. The cows are having miscarriages out of their fear. They could not see high land from low land. Everybody was in an extremely distressed situation. All the residents of Vrindavan became worried what to do. This rain like nothing they'd ever seen. In just a few moments, everything is going to be destroyed, including us. And so where did they go?
Krishna.
Little talkative Krishna. 7-year-old Krishna. They knew who was the shelter for them. Who was their protector. They knew every time they ran into any type of trouble, who was going to protect them? Krishna. When we read a little bit from Wonderful Krishna, they can't quite figure out how this little boy is always saving us. But when the big fire came along the banks of Yamuna, it was Krishna. When the cowherd boys are approaching Aghasura, this pastime is so amazing. Aghasura is a giant snake sitting, right? And the cowherd boys are walking right to it. So at first they think, they got fooled. They thought it was a cave and they entered. But actually, if we read, they're thinking, maybe it's a snake trying to kill us. Maybe it's a cave. Oh well, Krishna's with us. Whatever. Anyone have that kind of faith in Krishna? They are so faithful. They said, okay, let us go. If it's a snake, no big deal. Krishna will take care of us. So they always had faith in the shelter of Krishna. So Krishna, of course, seeing this very distressful situation, decides to save the residents of Vrindavan. Now, many different aspects come into play here. One of the questions we wonder, wait a minute, why in Vrindavan would there be distress and anxiety? People were so fearful, they were shaking and trembling. We say, wait a minute, spiritual life, we should be free of fear. So our Acharya's comment that actually that state was there to just intensify the excitement and happiness of what was going to happen next. And they give an example. Krishna Chakravarti Thakur gives an example. When you're very hungry, then the satisfaction of eating is more intense than when you are full and you eat the same things, right? So by that pain of hunger, you actually enjoy the foodstuffs more. So similarly, these are transcendental distresses to the residents of Vrindavan. They're always in bliss. But sometimes to intensify their love for Krishna, because when these rains come, now we know, what's he going to do to protect them? He's going to lift Govardhan. But did he need to lift Govardhan to stop the rains? He could have just went, and so Vartagana went flying. He could have called Ananta Shesh, bring his hoods, and provide full umbrella. He didn't need to lift Govardhan. So why he lifted Govardhan? What he was trying to do. So Krishna is always reciprocating with the desires of his devotees. In the Ashtakaliya Lilas of Krishna, they're broken up into different parts of the day. And in the different parts of the day, Krishna does different pastimes. And in these different parts, different devotees are able to enjoy with Krishna. But they are all lamenting, why? I only get a little bit of time in the day of Krishna. And what was the desire of all the residents of Vrindavan, whether it was Mother Yashoda, whether it was the cowherd boys, whether it was the gopis, whether it was the elderly cowherd men, what did they all want with Krishna? Uninterrupted time with him. One-on-one. So actually Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill. Externally we see to protect the residents of Vrindavan from this rain. But remember, he could have protected in so many ways. But he chose this, why? To bring all the residents of Vrindavan together, and so that he could be with all of them uninterrupted. How long they stayed under Govardhan Hill? 7 days and 7 nights. And at this time, nobody was moving even 1 inch. There was no sleeping. There was no, anybody have any water? Any snacks? No sleeping on the shoulder. They were just simply in awe, absorbing the beauty of Krishna. Simply staring and having uninterrupted darshan of Krishna. The exact thing they had wanted for so long. Now, Krishna is manifesting. So he lifts Govardhan Hill with his left hand, left nail, and he's balancing this 64-mile long Govardhan. Now, I always tell this one every year. If I'm holding a rock like this, any of you will stand underneath it? Why not? You don't trust me? 7-year-old Krishna is holding a 64-mile-long mountain. And he's not holding like this with support or putting on his head like the coolies so there you go. No. Like it's just teetering. And all the he says, come in. And all the residents, so much faith in Krishna, they just come underneath this giant umbrella, which is a mountain. One tip of it and boom. They didn't care. Why? Because Krishna is their absolute protector. Sometimes you wonder, will Krishna be there for me? What if he forgets about me? What if? But the residents will now know Krishna is the supreme perfect protector. And so they joyously entered. And our acharyas come and ask the question, how is it that everybody in Vrindavan could fit under one mountain, even if it's that big? How all the animals, because not only the residents, all the animals, everybody came. Because Giriraj was in so much ecstasy, being lifted by Krishna, that he began to expand himself. And he became very large. And thus all the residents gathered under this Govardhan. And of course you'll know that amazing darshan was had. But now if, let's say 1 million people gather in one place, how many of us can have a front row seat? A few. And then we know some will be in the middle and some will be way in the back, right? And if Krishna is in the middle, and everybody's around, some will be seeing the side, some will be seeing the back, some will be seeing the front, right? With Krishna, he is unlimited. Right? When we go to see one object, that one object is limited in what it can do. But Krishna is unlimited. And every single resident of Vrindavan saw Krishna up close and personal, face to face. Every person had a personal darshan of the Lord. Nobody was thinking, oh, move here, let me see. Everybody was peacefully situated with this amazing darshan. And when they saw Krishna, they could not rip their eyes away. Even if they tried, they could not take, they were so absorbed in drinking the beauty of Krishna. Now you can imagine what we could look at for even 7 minutes without becoming bored. If you've gone to some art gallery or something, you see some amazing piece of art, Okay, 7 minutes, 7 hours, anyone can? That is material. But Krishna's beauty is unending. And so the residents of Vrindavan, they could not get enough of Krishna's beauty. Now one may ask and wonder, okay, if they're standing under this mountain, but if torrential rains are coming, wouldn't they get flooded out? Wouldn't they get flooded out? Actually, every single drop of rain that landed in Vrindavan immediately evaporated. As soon as Krishna lifts Govardhan hill, so Samvartaka is pouring water after water after water, but not even one puddle could form. Now imagine how upset Lord Indra is. Giriraj, not even one leaf from one plant of Giriraj was disturbed, despite hail and heavy winds and heavy rains. Nothing could happen because Krishna was fully protected. So Krishna is holding Govardhan like this 7 days. Once, when the Srila Prabhupada was asked the devotees to draw Krishna lifting Govardhan, they drew a Krishna lifting Govardhan. And what they drew? Big muscles. A little bit of sweat dripping, like laboring. And he says, Krishna's 7! He's not going to have big muscles. He's not lifting with his muscles. Krishna is that material. Then we think, how he can lift as a 7-year-old boy? What is it to lift over them? Ananta Shesh is holding all the universes under his hoods, and those universes are like the dust particles that sit on our head. Do we feel the dust particles on our head? Don't even know they're there. Like that, the universes are sitting on. He's lifting. So what is it for Krishna to hold one Govardhan hill, actually? Many different aspects of this lifting of Govardhan hill. But after 7 days of pure bliss, satisfying the desire of all the residents of Vrindavan, the Lord Indra realized, I made a big mistake. And so he called off the rains, the sun re-emerged, and Krishna said, okay, now everyone is safe, you may go back. And so everybody left a little reluctantly with their desire fulfilled. Krishna always fulfills the desires of his devotees. When Krishna says, surrender everything to me, Krishna surrenders everything back. It is a two-way street of surrender. And so, fully satiated, all of the residents left, and Krishna returned Govardhan in the exact spot. Not even one rock was moved out of place when Krishna lifted Govardhan. So after this, very sweet exchange happens. So all the different residents are meeting Krishna in different ways. Some are massaging him, some are like sprinkling him with yogurt and flowers, and all different types of things, thinking, wow, this amazing Krishna. But then the coward men are thinking, who is this Krishna? What just happened? We were so absorbed in enjoying Krishna's beauty that now that we've got a chance to step back, what just happened? How is it that Krishna is doing these amazing things? You know, from a young age, a few days old, he killed Putana, Tarnarvata, and all these different demons. He must be empowered by the Supreme Lord. Then they thought, he can't be empowered by the Supreme Lord. He just lifted this mountain for 7 days. We tried to lift it for just a moment and we almost got crushed. At one time in the past time, they tried to hold, thinking, let us give Krishna a break. And Krishna thinking, oh, you want me to get a break? He drops it like 1 millimeter. No, Krishna, you go back. You go. So they're like, who is that? This cannot be some empowered person. This must be the Supreme Lord himself. But then how can this kid can be the Supreme Lord? He is coming and playing with us, and he likes us, and if we ignore him, he gets upset. He's always hungry and stealing butter from everybody. He's creating mischief. He's telling jokes. How this could be the Supreme Lord? And this way, they couldn't come to any conclusion. They go to Nanda Maharaj. And Nanda Maharaj explains what Garga Muni had said during the naming ceremony. And explained that this Krishna is one of the, at least the way it was explained, incarnations, appearances of the Supreme Lord. And he said that he will protect you from all the troubles that will come in Vrindavan. And like this, Nanda Maharaj explained all the glorious verses that Garga Muni had explained about Krishna and establishing him as the Supreme Lord. And so then they want to go and offer worship to the Supreme Lord. But don't worry, the next day they begin again interacting with Krishna, forgetting that he is the Supreme Lord. Just as Mother Yashoda, one moment is looking into Krishna's mouth, seeing the whole universe, and the next moment she's chasing him with a stick, trying to bind him. So like this, the pastimes continue. So that exchange happens in the final, in the 3rd chapter of Wonderful Krishna. So coming to now to the final chapter, what Indra's repentance. So Lord Indra realized his big mistake. His big mistake in his activities. And he does something, very nicely. When we all are going to make mistakes. Anybody is perfect? No. So when we make a mistake, what do? We beg for forgiveness. With a humble mood. And so we see in this verse. He approached in a solitary place and Indra fell down and laid his helmet, very shiny and illustrious helmet, at the feet of the Supreme Lord. And see how kind Krishna is. Krishna did not humiliate Lord Indra in front of all the residents of Vrindavan. He could have said, see, we also, maybe on the receiving end of, some, apology, or one should not become all pride, come. Lord Krishna says, he took them to a very solitary place. And there he had this very sweet exchange with Lord Indra. Because Krishna's goal was not to embarrass Lord Indra, was not to criticize Lord Indra. It was to protect him. To protect him from the fall down of pride. We see how many other people Krishna did not protect from their pride. Did he protect Ravan ultimately from his pride? He gave opportunity and chances. Hiranyakashipu? No. But to his devotees, he comes with the rod of punishment to protect. But Krishna is very clever and very kind in his protection also. He did not embarrass him. And actually, Krishna didn't say one word to Lord Indra to destroy his pride. Right? He simply diverted the activity, but actually he did nothing directly to him, if we see. And so Lord Indra composes very, very beautiful prayers where he glorifies the Supreme Lord in many ways. I don't have time to read them all, but he really shows amazing things and understanding of how to recognize our position. He says, engrossed in pride over my ruling power, ignorant of your majesty, I offended you. O Lord, may you forgive me. My intelligence was bewildered, but let my consciousness never again be so impure. We're going to make mistakes in the process of the devotional service. It's going to happen. But if we pray to the Lord, following in the footsteps of Lord Indra, we can actually have success. He says, right? Let my consciousness never again be so impure. Not just forgive me, Krishna, for this mistake, but don't let it happen again. Protect me from it happening again. This is intelligence in prayer, right? Not just, hey, Krishna, can you let it go this one time? Knowing that again, pride may seep in. So Lord Indra, continues to pray very, very sweetly. I recommend you read these verses from chapter 27. They're really, really sweet. Again, in the interest of time, I won't read them all. I'll read one more. O Lord, you have shown mercy to me by shattering my false pride and defeating my attempt to punish Vrindavan. To you, Supreme Lord, spiritual master, and supreme soul, I have now come for shelter. And so here, Lord Indra offers these wonderful prayers. Krishna responds with some beautiful comments, and then he performs a wonderful abhishek. And so this place where Lord Krishna received this worship from Lord Indra, it's there at the base of Govardhan. Madhavendra Puri's Bhajan Kutir is there. They're right next to Govind Kund. All the water that collected from the abhishek that's collected in this kund, and you can go and sprinkle water. And so if you ever go for parikrama, it's a must-stop place. We offer obeisances to Govind Kund. We offer obeisances to Madhavendra Puri's Bhajan Kutir, and then you carry on. It's near the end, the opposite end from Radhakund of Gira. Near the end, close to it, not quite at the end. But it's a very, very nice place. So this is the pastime of Govardhan Puja. And we see many, again, wonderful instructions. And this pastime, there's actually so many intricate details and nuances that each time we discuss, we can take a different angle and a different flavor of it. And it is very sweet. But we should walk away a few things. This Govardhan Puja is very, very important. Krishna himself inaugurated this puja. He showed us how to do it step by step. And how many of us would like to do Govardhan Parikrama as Krishna did now? How many of us would like to do Govardhan Parikrama? On Friday? Anybody would like to do it? Why not? When you come and you do Parikrama of the Anukut, that will be there, that Alika Mataji and Nirmala Prema Mataji are organizing and working so hard for all of our blessings to receive from Radha Kunjayari. When you circumambulate that 4 times, it is the same potency of having completed Govardhan Parikrama in Vrindavan. So this is a very, very auspicious day to come and take blessings of the deities. It is also the installation day of Radha Kunjayari. It is their appearance day. And so we know on our birthdays, we're in a very giving mood. Krishna's Radha Kunjayari's special day is on Govardhan Puja. And so it is the most important day for all of us. And we can make significant progress in devotional service. And we can pray to Krishna to never be afflicted by the danger of pride. And if we do, beg for his rod of punishment to purify us of our pride, so that it does not become a hindrance in our progress in devotional service. And if we do, we are assured protection, like Krishna protected all the devotees with Giraj, and we can make wonderful progress in devotional service under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada and all of acharyas. So look forward to celebrating with everybody on Friday. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai. Giraj Maharaj ki jai. So, any comments or questions? Discussion?
Probably very nice class. Not a question, but some understanding. If I'm going to Vrindavan, how many days I need to have a complete vision and parikrama and Radha Kuman and all those things.
It's a lifetime.
Well, Vrindavan, yes, you can spend weeks and weeks and weeks, but if you have 3 or 4 days, you can at least see something. One day you can go for Govardhan parikrama. One day you set aside for seeing the 6 Goswami temples of Vrindavan. And then one day you can pick, going and seeing either Barsana and underground, like that. Like 3 days, absolute minimum. But if you have 1 week, you can see something nice, 4, 5, 6 places. Minimum, if you have 3 days, it's great. But if you have even 1 hour, you should go to Vrindavan. And just offering obeisances to Krishna Balaram, Radha Shyam, Gaurita, Prabhupada Samadhi, it is so powerful. So powerful. So I would say whatever time you have, you give. And if you can give a little bit, 3, 4 days, it'd be great. Yeah. And our temple has a wonderful tour office. So they can arrange based on your timing, and they'll take you to all these places very nicely, good devotees, and they'll show you.
Yeah, so Prabhuji, next time when I'm going, I'll definitely let you know.
Yes.
But I was talking to Pallika Mataji as well. So there is some tourist center as well kind of thing. If I go there, approach them.
Yeah, right inside the temple.
They'll assist.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Yes, Rudy?
Thank you, Prabhu. Nice discussion. In this pastime, when Krishna left the Govardhan, because when we dig the earth, many things come out of the earth. But if we see the pastime, it looks very auspicious. Everything is ready for them to stay, and no fear of anything, like no fear of any animals or insects or something. So apart from that, overall, like 7 days went so quickly for the devotees over there. So is there any explanation of like Yogamaya taking complete coverage?
Well, Yogamaya is fully present in Vrindavan,
Okay.
right? So it's not that she is specifically present then.
Mm-hmm.
She's fully present, and her whole role is to increase the relationship and exchange between Krishna and his devotees, right? So Mahamaya takes us away from Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
Yogamaya brings us closer to Krishna. So she plays like the elderly cowherd men. Immediately after finally understanding Krishna is the Supreme Lord, they meditate again, see him as young boy. Because Yogamaya is covering their understanding so that they can engage in an even deeper relationship with Krishna.
In this chapter, is that explained like Yogamaya covered this like that? Or
No, because she didn't cover anything specifically. It was by Krishna's potency that everything was happening. Like even the water, right? It's absorbing.
Yeah.
And not even one, like when we lift a piece of stone, everything is uneven, right?
Yeah.
Like this, when Krishna lifted, everything was smooth and everybody could come and enter and sit, be situated. Only Krishna can perform these things. So it wasn't an illusion. Yogamaya creates the illusion, the spiritual illusion. This was reality. He lifted in such a way that everything was perfect. Nothing was disturbed. And when he put it back, it is as if it never lifted before. That's only Krishna can do something like that. He is the supreme creator, so of course he has the potency to do these sorts of things. So it wasn't a function of Yogamaya, but Yogamaya was covering their understanding that this is the Supreme Lord, so that they could just absorb themselves in darshan of Krishna. So that's the understanding.
I had one question.
Yeah.
Someday before.
Huh?
Like, I had one question someday.
Yeah.
Same related to Vrindavan pastimes. So which Vrindavan pastimes mimics or shows of the reflection of in Goloka Vrindavan and
Which pastimes?
which pastimes? Like how can we understand the qualities of Goloka Vrindavan, activities of Goloka Vrindavan by seeing the Vrindavan pastimes in
Krishna comes to show these pastimes to show us what exists in Goloka Vrindavan.
Okay.
So he's performing his pastimes to entice the materially attached living entities to become attracted to Krishna. And then also to enjoy some very unique pastimes with his devotees. So like in Goloka Vrindavan, there's no demons.
Yeah.
There's no killing of demons. Right? There's no Janmashtami, Nanda Utsav. Right? There's no jailhouse and crossing the river. So like those sorts of pastimes are not there. But grazing the cows and enjoying with the cowherd boys and playing catch and all the different games they play. That's all comes in the spiritual world.
Radha is there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything. And all that's coming from there. And it's all coming from there. So, Giriraj is there. Yamuna is there. So Krishna comes to give us a preview. This is what life is like in the spiritual world. Otherwise we'll, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So that's why he made this.
Yeah, even though when Lord Narayan said to Brahma, when they opposed for the protection, that go and take birth in Yadu dynasty and Bhuja dynasty, I am going to come. So that time, did any of the demigods or demigods like their followers or sons,
Yeah.
did they take in birth in the Vrindavan?
Some took it around, many came to Dwarka.
Yeah, so that is in the dynasty of Bhojanis as a
Many of them came in Dwarka Lila,
but not in Vrindavan. All
very
of you.
few. Because Vrindavan Lila is for the pure devotees of the Lord, who are full in absorption of devotional service. So even Acharya's comment about this pastime, like Lord Indra, right? So he prayed very nicely. But one thing didn't happen. And again, don't take this is not a criticism of Lord Indra, it's a description of the power of pure devotional service. So when Lord Indra surrendered, one thing did happen. He didn't lose the pride. We know just a few chapters later, when Krishna comes, Krishna goes to Indralok. Why? Because somebody had stolen his mother's earrings, Varuna's umbrella, and usurped their garden. So Lord Indra went to Krishna and said, ask for help. So Krishna goes, and he takes Satyabhama with her. And he goes and he defeats the demons. So you think, like, okay, Krishna, Lord Indra will be very happy, pleased. Then Krishna decided that Satyabhama wanted the Parijata tree because he had once given one flower to Rukmini. So Krishna takes the Parijata tree and is going to take it back to Dwarka. And Lord Indra does what? He starts fighting with Krishna. So again he forgot. Who am I? And who is God? Right? And our Acharya's comment, why? Because until we engage in pure devotional service, the purification doesn't manifest. This is the power of bhakti. In pure devotional service, we can fully snuff out this pride and smash this pride. And so, that is why, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada, we have scope to be able to smash this pride. But otherwise, even we pray very sincerely, it'll keep coming back. It'll keep coming back. And that's what we see here. So, the residents of Vrindavan, they are fully purified. They are the pure eternal associates. But when the living entity is rendered pure devotional service and is preparing to go back to Goloka Vrindavan, most, Prabhupada writes, will first take birth in one of the universes where Krishna is about to perform his pastimes as almost like an apprenticeship. To be engaged in Vrindavan Lila in the earthly planet, and then when all the residents go back, they go back home to Radha. So Prabhupada explains this in Srimad Bhagavatam. So the residents of Vrindavan are on the pure platform. They're fully purified. And so it's a very elevated place, but by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the chanting of the holy names, it is attainable by all. That is the mercy we have, and it's attainable by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes.
Prabhuji, when Krishna was lifting the Govardhan, was there any discussion or anything has been said between Maharaj and Yasodamai about like when he was lifting, right? So was there any discussion happening?
While he was lifting, everybody was just in awe.
Okay, so there is.
Because Krishna again was engaging with everybody on a one-on-one basis. And there was this transcendental exchange. But everybody was just stunned in ecstasy. There was actually no activity. And that's the unique feature that describes the all-attractive nature of Krishna. And there was no need for any supplemental activity to bring entertainment. The beauty of Krishna was beyond satiation. They couldn't get enough of it. It was inexhaustible in and of itself. There was nothing else. There was no kirtan going, no prasad, no, because they were just, and that was their strong desire. Right? Everybody wanted. Mother Yashoda was always lamenting that as soon as Krishna gets ready in the morning, he runs off with his friends, and I don't get to see him until the evening. The cowherd boys are thinking, we get him from breakfast till lunch or after lunch, and then we don't get to see him. Nanda Baba said, I only get to see him in the afternoon. Right? Like this, so everybody is dividing it up. So this 7 days is the only time they all had uninterrupted darshan. So they just wanted to drink the beauty of Krishna. So that is what our acharyas talk about, and now they talk about no feeling of hunger or thirst or tiredness. Because Krishna was, sometimes we wonder, well, what if I get bored? What if I just run out of things to do? That is only in our ignorance. There is nothing, Krishna is unlimited.
Prabhuji, the Friday which is coming, which is the first day of the 7th day or the last day of the 7th day? The Govardhan, he lifted for 7 days, right?
Yeah, first day.
First day.
Yeah. Because Indra Puja was taking place on the day after Diwali. So that's what he did in Govardhan Puja.
So that's the 7th day then.
The first
day.
Yeah. Because Lord Indra reciprocated after the Govardhan Puja with the rains. Right? So after the Govardhan Puja, he showered the rains.
Extra first.
Yeah, so it's the first.
So was there any significance for those 7 days, bro? Like 7 days, 7 nights?
I have not heard anything.
Also, another question that from something you said, nothing to do with Govardhan, but you said Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he reads Bhagavatam, right? So, what version of Bhagavatam is this?
What
Like now, for us, it's all Prabhupada's book, right? When he reads it,
Prabhupada's purports. The verses are the same. It's just the purports.
yeah, so
He was
during
reading.
his days, there would be something.
He was reading all the Sanskrit verses. He was reading all the Sanskrit verses. And like the Sanskrit verses here in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? That's exactly what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have been reading. But he understands Sanskrit. Whereas we need translations and then explanations. But the verses are exact same. Right? So all the pastimes and everything were there. But when he was reading, he and Gadadhar Pandit were discussing different realizations, different experiences with these verses.
So it was like a book form, right?
Yeah, book form. Of course, yeah. Book form. Yeah.
I was curious on like.
Ink written book form. And it was all of Gadadhar Pandit's pages were just ruined and running because he would be crying and his tears would fall in the pages and the ink would run. Because there they used to write a leaf. They used to write on a leaf. And they were hand copied. Everything was hand copied. Like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got the Brahma Samhita, he had it hand copied from Sri Rama. Not Sri Rama, from I'm forgetting the place he got it, but you get the point.
Those were not saved or stored somewhere.
One of the Bhagavad Gitas is there somewhere.
Handwritten book or leaf?
Yeah, handwritten leaf.
Leaf?
On leaf. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, I've been there. He wrote a few things. Those are there. I'm drawing a blank on where it was. It's in Bengal. I don't remember the name of the place. But some of that is there.
That would be nice to see.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's original shoes are there at Dhameshwar. If you're really fortunate, they'll put on your head. They're encased in like a metal now. But they preserved his original wood shoes.
Where are they, Prabhu?
In Navadvip, in
Oh,
Dhameshwar
no,
temple.
okay, no.
In West Bengal.
Yeah.
So shall we do Damodar Astakam and Arti and everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Prabhupada ki jai.